Despise me if you must, but I remain unmoved. A child who fails to show respect, who lacks proper reverence, such behavior comes with consequences. I lifted my crystal glass of Cabernet, watching the wine dance as I rotated my wrist, its deep crimson catching the amber glow of my office lights. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan's skyline glittered, a kingdom reserved for those who understood victory. I had fought too hard to be anything but one of them. My desk phone buzzed. Alexandra. Predictable. A smile played at my lips as I answered, maintaining my practiced composure. What have you done, Mother? Not Mom, just Mother, delivered with ice-cold precision. I settled deeper into my chair, approaching this like any minor business matter, barely worth my attention. I made a strategic choice, I stated. Nathan now holds the rights to your research project. A brief pause followed, but I could sense her rage building through the connection. What? Her voice trembled with disbelief. That's impossible. You have no authority. I made a dismissive gesture, despite her inability to see it. Actually, I do, Alex. The project was developed under Carter Pharmaceuticals' umbrella. It's company property. Absolutely not. You can't touch my patent rights. I released a soft laugh, laden with implications. This reaction was exactly as I'd anticipated, another piece falling perfectly into my calculated plan. Darling, your scientific brilliance doesn't translate to business acumen, I remarked, my tone almost maternal in its condescension. I'm merely ensuring the project reaches someone capable of maximizing its potential. Nathan's clueless about biochemistry. He's just a corporate puppet with an MBA. Her indignation almost amused me. Did she think I was unaware? Of course Nathan wasn't exceptional. But I didn't require excellence, I needed compliance. I wanted someone malleable, someone who understood the hierarchy of power. A child who recognized when to bow their head and hold their tongue. Alexandra never mastered that lesson. Alexandra, the matter is settled, I declared, my voice hardening. Your approval isn't required. This is merely a courtesy notification. And what about me? Her tone shifted, not to anger, but to something more glacial, more cutting. Was I ever part of your grand scheme? I turned my chair to face the window, studying my reflection in the glass. Part of my scheme? She always was. Just not in the way she imagined. I could still recall the day she entered this world, a child thrust upon me by circumstance. I had foolishly entertained the notion that maternal instincts might eventually surface, that time would forge the bond society promised. But reality proved otherwise. With each passing year, she transformed into a mirror image of Catherine, Robert's first wife, that insufferable woman. Those penetrating eyes, that distant gaze, the obsessive devotion to scientific pursuits as if nothing else held meaning. Precisely like Catherine. The resemblance revolted me. Richard's arrival marked my salvation. He and his son, Nathan, offered an escape. Finally, a chance to step out of Catherine's lingering shadow. An opportunity to no longer witness her essence reflected in my daughter's every gesture. Nathan may have his flaws, but his unwavering loyalty compensated for all shortcomings. That was sufficient. Returning my attention to the conversation, I stated, Alexandra, you must realize this isn't about causing you pain. Not about pain? Her words dripped with bitter derision. You've stripped away my life's work and handed it to an incompetent puppet. If you consider this harmless, I shudder to imagine what you'd define as cruel. I exhaled deliberately, adopting the air of a patient parent addressing an obstinate child. This industry isn't a sanctuary for laboratory recluses. Adapt or face obsolescence. I won't surrender this. A soft laugh escaped my lips. That's your prerogative. With that, I terminated the call. Setting aside my wine glass, I rose and approached the window. From my vantage point on the 40th floor of Carter Pharmaceuticals headquarters, Manhattan sprawled beneath me, a tapestry of lights, vehicles, and diminutive figures scurrying through their insignificant existences. Did Alexandra truly believe she could challenge my authority? Naive child. She remained oblivious to the fact that every move had been predetermined. And I had never tasted defeat. A mother's innate love for her offspring? Society's most masterfully crafted deception. Common wisdom dictates that maternal instinct compels a mother to cherish her child, to sacrifice everything in their defense. But what of those who never experience this mythical connection? What of those who, from their child's first breath, recognize them as nothing more than an unwanted tether? Judge me if you must, condemn me if you will, but I speak only truth. Alexandra's existence was never my desire. She represented everything I sought to avoid. My marriage to Robert Carter wasn't founded on romance. Every aspect was meticulously planned. He was an ambitious entrepreneur requiring a shrewd, elegant partner to help construct Carter Pharmaceuticals' empire. I executed this role impeccably. Then came his persistent talk of parenthood. I resisted vehemently. The thought had never appealed to me. But Robert, ever the traditionalist, remained fixated on his antiquated family values. He desperately wanted an heir to perpetuate his pharmaceutical dynasty. Picture it, Veronica, he mused one evening, while I languidly swirled my wine glass, already weary of this recurring discussion. Our child will inherit the reins of Carter Pharmaceuticals. Absurd. I alone would command this empire. Not some hypothetical offspring. But Robert remained blind to my ambitions. Then Alexandra entered our lives. From her earliest years, Alexandra proved to be my antithesis. She lacked my steely determination, my insatiable appetite for control, my innate drive to dominate the corporate landscape. Instead, she immersed herself in scientific pursuits, squandering countless hours in her makeshift laboratory rather than learning the art of influence and manipulation. She was never truly mine. More disturbing still, she embodied Catherine, Robert's first wife, in every conceivable way. Catherine Carter, that supposedly brilliant scientific mind Robert never tired of extolling. A woman too fragile for reality, perpetually lost in her theoretical abstractions and endless research. Her death from cancer had devastated Robert so profoundly that it took 12 months of calculated effort for me to secure his hand in marriage. But Alexandra? She preserved Catherine's memory with unwavering devotion. She mirrored her mother in every excruciating detail, from her manner of speech to her idealistic worldview, right down to that same insufferably dreamy expression. I saw Catherine's ghost in her features, and it filled me with contempt. Alexandra consistently defied expectations of obedience. She rejected my guidance, resisted my influence. But her most brazen act of defiance occurred at 17. I had orchestrated everything perfectly. Harvard Business School would mold her into a worthy successor for Carter Pharmaceuticals. Instead, she chose Stanford, pursuing biochemistry of all things. Science offers no practical future, I declared icily. True success demands business acumen. Yet, she met my gaze with that maddeningly resolute expression. Business holds no appeal for me, mother, she declared. Research is my calling. I intend to create meaningful change. Meaningful change? My fingers curled into fists. I had dedicated my existence to ascending the corporate ladder, accumulating influence, becoming a woman who commanded absolute control. Now my foolish daughter chose to pursue such an inconsequential path. I possessed the power to crush her aspirations instantly. I could have forced her to abandon these pointless dreams, but I refrained, because I knew eventually she would return. Reality would force her to acknowledge her dependence on me. Then Richard Parker entered the equation. Richard exemplified true business acumen, understanding the ruthless nature of success. But more significantly, he brought Nathan Parker, his son. Nathan embodied everything Alexandra could never be. Someone who recognized that raw intelligence paled against strategic wisdom. Someone receptive to guidance, capable of being shaped into a genuine heir. Nathan proved remarkably receptive to my vision. I meticulously cultivated his abilities, teaching him the art of commanding attention, the subtle nuances of public speaking, and, most crucially, how to project brilliance without the tedious burden of actually possessing it. When Richard's proposal arrived, I recognized it as the perfect opportunity to finally eliminate Alexandra's lingering influence completely. After all, Carter Pharmaceuticals had never truly belonged to her. While Alexandra squandered years sequestered in laboratories, obsessing over her research, she failed to grasp a fundamental truth. Without Carter Pharmaceuticals, my company, my authority, my resources, she was utterly insignificant. She possessed no legitimate claim to make demands. I had invested decades meticulously constructing my empire, earning every fragment of my success through calculated determination. Each victory, each advancement came through relentless persistence and strategic maneuvering. Why should I relinquish control to an ungrateful daughter who failed to appreciate true power? No. Nathan represented the superior choice. He would execute my directives without question. As for Alexandra, she would learn to accept her irrelevance in this game of power. And should she dare to challenge my authority, the consequences would ensure she never attempted such defiance again. People say marriage is about love. To me, it's a business deal. And I have never invested in a losing deal. Let them label me an opportunist, a woman devoid of emotional attachment. Survival in this world demands pragmatism, and I refuse to let sentiment impede my objectives. Did Robert Carter inspire love? Certainly not. He represented a calculated strategic alliance. Did Richard Parker evoke genuine affection? Equally no. Our marriage exemplified a perfect business transaction, a strategically sound decision. Most importantly, he provided Nathan Parker, a malleable heir I could shape to serve my purposes. My first encounter with Richard Parker at a New York investment gathering revealed his nature instantly, a man of success and influence, yet vulnerable in his solitude, desperately seeking a partner to enhance his social standing. I executed my role with precision, embodying the strong, intellectually matched woman who could engage him in every business discussion. Manipulation through weakness was unnecessary. Richard admired powerful women. I delivered exactly that persona. 6 months of careful orchestration convinced him of my unique ability to understand his vision. Within a year, I secured my second marriage, a union promising even greater power than my first. But Richard wasn't the true prize. Nathan was. From our initial meeting, I recognized Nathan's latent potential. While he lacked Alexandra's intellectual capacity, that proved irrelevant. He understood power dynamics instinctively. Nathan grasped the art of crafting perceptions, of manufacturing an illusion of competence that transcended actual ability. He recognized that true power belongs not to the most intelligent, but to those who master manipulation. And under my guidance, I knew he would become my perfect instrument for maintaining control over Carter Pharmaceuticals. I am not a woman who believes in unconditional devotion. My investments are reserved exclusively for those who demonstrate genuine potential. Nathan required extensive molding, and I executed this transformation with surgical precision. I strategically positioned him at every crucial networking event, compelling him to master the intricacies of eloquent communication and relationship cultivation. I refined his appearance, polished his rhetoric, and taught him to project an aura of business brilliance, even while lacking fundamental knowledge about pharmaceuticals. Though Nathan possessed no scientific expertise, this proved inconsequential. I instructed him in the art of leveraging individuals with superior intelligence to achieve his objectives. Understanding creation is secondary. Mastering monetization is paramount. I ensured Nathan's unwavering faith in my guidance, eliminating any trace of doubt in my decisions. He became convinced that I alone held the key to his ascension as the legitimate heir to Carter Pharmaceuticals. This fundamental difference distinguished Nathan from Alexandra. Alexandra's independence was her weakness. She clung to the illusion of self-sufficiency, rejecting external guidance. Nathan embodied the opposite. His dependence guaranteed my absolute control. I orchestrated each element with meticulous precision. I anticipated Alexandra's contempt for Nathan, her dismissal of him as merely my controlled instrument. I cultivated this perception deliberately. I wanted Alexandra to experience the discomfort of replacement, to comprehend she no longer maintained exclusive status. Nathan had achieved readiness. As had I. Upon learning of Alexandra's imminent research breakthrough, I recognized the moment for decisive action. My response? I employed my signature strategy, seizing what I desired. Leveraging my CEO authority, I systematically removed Alexandra from crucial projects. I orchestrated Nathan's elevation to leadership. I declared Alexandra's research corporate property of Carter Pharmaceuticals, transferring it directly to Nathan. When Alexandra's furious call came, her accusations of theft echoing through the line, I merely smiled. Accept reality, Alex. Your utility has expired. Nathan serves my purposes now. Her hatred and resistance meant nothing. Victory remained perpetually beyond her reach. I controlled every aspect of the game. And Alexandra? Merely another disposable piece in my strategic design. Why? Because legitimate ownership never resided with her. She held no right to claim what I financed. Many espouse principles of fairness, but such concepts exist merely as fiction. Fairness serves as comfort for the weak, those deluded by beliefs in merit-based success. Alexandra exemplified this naivete. She operated under the misguided assumption that intelligence, dedication, and diligence guaranteed autonomous achievement. But I understood the deeper truth. This world rewards not superior talent, but masterful game manipulation. And Alexandra? She never qualified as a genuine contender. For years, I deliberately overlooked Alexandra's contributions. Her endless hours in sterile laboratories and obsession with intricate chemical formulas held no appeal. To my perspective, science served merely as a means to an end, not the ultimate objective. But that Monday afternoon altered everything. As I methodically reviewed the research division's reports, it caught my attention. A revolutionary advancement in cancer drug delivery systems. Though lacking scientific expertise, I immediately grasped its monumental potential. This research, if strategically developed, could elevate Carter Pharmaceuticals to industry dominance for the next decade. And the architect behind this breakthrough? Alexandra. A headstrong, idealistic, misguided researcher. Someone utterly incapable of recognizing the true market value of her creation. I identified my strategic advantage. And I knew swift action was essential before Alexandra could establish protective measures. Some might assume my preference for Nathan stemmed from his position as my husband's offspring. But that assumption missed the truth entirely. I selected Nathan because he embodied malleability. Nathan's comprehension of the research was irrelevant. His value lay in his sales capabilities. Nathan possessed no inflated sense of self-importance. He would remain perpetually compliant. Nathan excelled at shareholder relations, media engagement, and market manipulation. Alexandra? She remained confined to her laboratory sanctuary, drowning in endless data. The skills to commercialize her discoveries would forever elude her. I refused to waste time waiting for her eventual realization. So I intervened on her behalf. By systematically dismantling her position, I recognized the futility of direct confrontation regarding her research. Despite her naivety, Alexandra maintained enough awareness to resist outright demands. She would question, she would oppose. Therefore, I orchestrated everything from behind the scenes. Leveraging my CEO authority, I methodically eroded Alexandra's project control. Initially, I constrained her budget, compelling research sharing with Nathan's business team. Subsequently, I excluded her from strategy discussions, citing the necessity for fresh perspectives. I strategically reassigned her team members to various projects, ensuring her gradual isolation. Once Alexandra's authority had been sufficiently diminished, I introduced Nathan as the commercialization supervisor. Nathan's presence became ubiquitous at meetings. Nathan assumed decision-making authority, despite his complete ignorance of the research fundamentals. Nathan seamlessly replaced Alexandra, while I ensured the organization recognized him as the project's legitimate leader. Direct theft proved unnecessary. I simply needed to legally separate her from her work. I directed legal to prepare patent transfer documentation, presenting it as standard corporate procedure. I positioned Nathan to sign as the new project representative, officially declaring the research as Carter Pharmaceuticals' intellectual property. By the time Alexandra comprehended the magnitude of events, everything had been irrevocably finalized. I had anticipated Alexandra's reaction, but I remained unmoved. When she called, her voice trembling with barely contained rage, I merely smiled. This is completely unacceptable. Actually, Alex, it's entirely acceptable. The deed is done. She could resist. She could voice her objections. but she was powerless to reverse my strategic maneuvers. I was the architect of this enterprise. I had constructed it from nothing. Carter Pharmaceuticals was my creation, and every innovation developed within these walls belonged to me. Alexandra had lost sight of this fundamental truth, but I would ensure this lesson resonated permanently. I believed every variable had been accounted for. I had orchestrated events from the background, methodically separating her from her research. But I overlooked one crucial detail. Alexandra had outmaneuvered me. After years of dominating the corporate landscape, you develop an inflated sense of control. You convince yourself that you're the ultimate puppet master, that every piece on the corporate chessboard moves according to your design. I subscribed to this delusion. I dismissed Alexandra's potential, convinced that her scientific mindset and business inexperience would render her blind to my calculated scheme. My hubris proved costly. That morning, I strode into my office radiating triumph. Alexandra's research control had been systematically dismantled. Nathan had been successfully installed as the project's figurehead. Carter Pharmaceuticals had formally claimed ownership of the entire research portfolio. Everything aligned perfectly with my strategy. Until the legal department's message arrived. Subject: urgent. Issue with Alexandra Carter's patent. My expression darkened as I opened the email. Veronica, we've uncovered that Alexandra filed an independent patent application under her name prior to the project's official registration with Carter Pharmaceuticals. This development poses significant legal challenges to our ownership claim. Immediate discussion required. My pulse accelerated. Inconceivable. While many struggle with intellectual property regulations, I possess intimate knowledge. A corporation can claim ownership of developments within its facilities. This principle underlies every employment agreement. However, a crucial exception exists. Researchers maintaining proof of prior development retain complete ownership rights. The implications were staggering. If Alexandra had filed her patent before I secured Carter Pharmaceuticals' legal claim, she would maintain exclusive control over the research's future. If verified, this would demolish my carefully constructed plan. I gritted my teeth as the devastating reality crystallized. Surely not. Alexandra couldn't have demonstrated such strategic foresight. But evidently, she had. I burst into the legal department's conference room, maintaining a facade of composure despite my internal turmoil. We must identify alternative options, I declared, my tone glacial. The legal director, a seasoned professional who had served under my leadership for over 10 years, appeared visibly uncomfortable. We're exploring potential loopholes, he responded cautiously, but if Alexandra's filing predates ours, legally, she retains complete ownership rights. My fingernails carved crescents into my palms as I clenched my fists. I had gravely underestimated her capabilities. She possessed far more cunning than I'd given her credit for. However, there was a crucial detail. While Alexandra had made a calculated move, it wasn't sufficient to guarantee her safety. Her inexperience remained her weakness. She naively believed that a mere document, her patent certification, would be enough to secure her position. She failed to understand the true nature of corporate warfare. That certificate meant nothing without the resources to defend it. And resources? Those belonged to me. Hesitation wasn't an option. If Alexandra maintained patent control, she could launch an external audit, sending shockwaves through Carter Pharmaceuticals' investor base, form strategic alliances with competing pharmaceutical firms, undermining my authority, initiate legal proceedings, challenging my project leadership. I refused to allow such scenarios to materialize. So I executed the only viable strategy. I launched an aggressive counteroffensive. I directed our legal team to contest Alexandra's patent application, claiming she had utilized Carter Pharmaceuticals' infrastructure for her research development. I mobilized the PR department to undermine her credibility, promoting the narrative that the project resulted from collective effort, not individual brilliance. I strategically positioned Nathan in media appearances, establishing him as the legitimate heir to this research. While I couldn't invalidate the patent immediately, I could systematically isolate Alexandra. I could plant seeds of doubt about her capabilities. I could erode her support network until, when I struck decisively, she would stand alone. I savored my wine while watching Nathan's television interview, noting his impeccable delivery. This breakthrough represents our collective achievement. I'm honored to advance Carter Pharmaceuticals' mission of delivering revolutionary medical solutions to countless patients. A satisfied smile crossed my face. Though Alexandra had anticipated my initial move, I still commanded the game. I'd previously dismissed her as insignificant, but now I recognized her potential. Yet potential alone couldn't secure victory against me. She believed she could protect her work? How utterly naive. I would demonstrate the harsh reality: this world shows no mercy to the weak. Extended dominance breeds complacency, making you forget that fortune's winds are fickle. When they shift, they bring an irreversible fall. I once believed in my invincibility. I convinced myself my strategies were impenetrable, my control absolute, my position unassailable. I was devastatingly mistaken. Alexandra didn't merely survive my assault, she retaliated. By the time I recognized the threat, my fate was sealed. I sat in my office, reviewing financial statements as usual. Carter Pharmaceuticals maintained stability despite patent dispute rumors. I believed I retained control. Then my phone rang. "Veronica, we're facing a critical situation." My head of legal's voice lacked its characteristic steadiness. I tensed. "What's wrong?" "The USPTO has issued their official ruling. The patent rights have been awarded to Alexandra." "This means..." My grip on the phone intensified. "Impossible. Simply impossible. The company cannot proceed with utilizing this research without her explicit permission." My fingernails pierced my skin. This situation demanded immediate intervention. I sprang into action without delay. I contacted Nathan, demanding he schedule an urgent board meeting. I directed our legal department to challenge the USPTO's verdict, creating a window to devise a solution. I orchestrated a media campaign to continue discrediting Alexandra. However, this time, I wasn't the sole strategist in play. Alexandra had orchestrated her countermove before I could act. Within hours of my call, news headlines began cascading. Veronica Carter accused of appropriating daughter's intellectual property. Carter Pharmaceuticals confronts potential legal catastrophe. Alexandra Carter, brilliant scientist or mother's exploitation victim? From the conference room, I watched Alexandra deliver an exclusive interview to a major news outlet. She appeared poised, articulate, and more formidable than I'd ever witnessed. "Confronting Carter Pharmaceuticals was never my intention," she stated with unwavering conviction. "However, I cannot remain silent while my work is misappropriated. I trust in the system's ability to deliver justice." Justice? The notion was laughable. Justice had never existed in this realm. Yet Alexandra had masterfully convinced the public otherwise. And I'd lost my grip on the narrative. The board meeting atmosphere crackled with tension. I maintained my composure as I entered. My position as CEO remained intact. My authority within the company persisted. But the board members' gazes had transformed. Where fear once resided, they now saw impending defeat. The chairman broke the silence. "Veronica, after careful consideration and given our current predicament and legal exposure, we must request your resignation as CEO." I stood motionless. Resign? I refused to leave, I declared, ice-coating my words. "Carter Pharmaceuticals is my creation." "No, Veronica," another voice interjected. "It belongs to our shareholders. They've reached their verdict." I surveyed the room. Not a single ally remained. Defeat had found me. I departed the boardroom, each step weighted with finality. I, Veronica Carter, the architect who transformed Carter Pharmaceuticals into today's pharmaceutical giant, was being expelled from the very empire I'd fought relentlessly to dominate. My victories had grown too numerous. My manipulations too extensive. And ultimately, my own daughter had orchestrated my downfall. "I can already hear your thoughts." Veronica reaped what she sowed. Such is the consequence of unchecked ambition. Has remorse finally caught up with her? Here's my response. I harbor no regrets. Every action I took was calculated to secure dominance. I navigated the corporate landscape by its unwritten rules and emerged victorious for decades. But ponder this. Life presents pivotal crossroads where you must choose between ruthless ambition and human connection, between absolute control and meaningful relationships. Would you sacrifice everything to claim victory? And once victorious, can you maintain that supremacy indefinitely? What's your perspective on my fall from grace? Was it deserved retribution, or did I simply engage in a game that spiraled beyond control? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Remember to like and subscribe to catch the next installment, where I reveal my path forward after losing everything. If you find yourself gripped by stories of power and betrayal, share to bring others into this compelling dialogue. Where do your loyalties lie? Team Alexandra, champion of justice and rightful inheritance. Team Veronica, advocate of power and strategic necessity. Comment below. I value every perspective shared.